And Mike, you've written that you're representing Asheville on Bikes, and so you'll have 5 minutes.
Yes, my name is Mike Sewell. I'm the executive director of Asheville on Bikes.
But after I left the meeting last week, I haven't really been able to sleep. After Mike Shue spoke to me the way he did, and none of y'all, I mean none of y'all, said anything.
Your disrespect to a black woman of this community.
Back to my thing, so I freestyle. Our school board wants to join this Mike Sewell person in the further invading of communities with their white desires.
What else is required from this black neighborhood?
It's hockey. And I'm here tonight to apologize.
First to you, Mike, Mr. Asheville on Bikes, as heartfelt as you thought your apology was, we know why it came.
I also ignored the Charles Street community's concerns regarding neighborhood resiliency and gentrification. I personally apologize to Ms. Charlene Mayfield for challenging her directly during the meeting.
It came because you were told how your white privilege, your white supremacy rang throughout that last meeting.
Question her knowledge of knowing what are the wants for her black community.
The unmitigated gall of anyone to tell a black person what's best for them when they themselves are not black is laughable.
Raisins in the potato salad.
I acknowledge my disrespect. I appreciate and thank the community leaders who held me to account and helped me see that my exertion of privilege and its potential to perpetuate harm in legacy neighborhoods. Thank you. I am humbled and I am sorry. I apologize.
Good afternoon. I am Zakia Bell Rogers. I am an Asheville High alumni, class of '98, a community advocator, and a parent to all children who do not have an active adult to advocate for them. I am here, and not for a joyous occasion, as our children have celebrated their last day of school. Here we are to discuss what has not been done for our children. We know that the educational gap has not changed much. We do know that a black qualified principal who is from our community, who has applied multiple times, who has been denied multiple times, again, was not hired. We know that less than a month ago at the Buncombe County budget meeting, you all did not have adequate strategy plans to address the educational gap. What we do know is that your concern of a bike lane in a black neighborhood only increases the distrust that we have in your ability to advocate and work for our children and community. And that offering to name it after our beloved Mr. Baycoat isn't going to make us want to have it. That your allowance of disrespect to a black woman of this community by a visitor who questioned her knowledge of knowing what are the wants for her black community. But what else is required from this black neighborhood to give up for the joy of white people in Buncombe County? We were given, where was the community engagement to ask the community's input? Why are they not putting a bike lane up in North Asheville instead of taking away from an already abused and used people? How do you explain the creation of 3 positions and raises for people who failed in the school system in central office? What lens was used? Because I assure you, it was not the lens of equity, but the one of white privilege. In 2024, the Cease the Harm audit was released. Has the board been able to access, read, and discuss this report? I am most positive it was not. And then I sat here and listened to your equity statement that you so proudly present before each board member. Community feedback, it is laced with false promises and emotional manipulation. You all have patronized us. You have learned the language of equity and inclusion to lie and manipulate us, and you have continued to ignore us. But what you did not know is that we were watching and have been watching, and we are here to see results, and we want answers. That's my 3.
Thank you. Next, we have Paul Howell. And Paul, you will have 3 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Paul Howell. I'm a lifelong resident of Asheville, North Carolina. 1979, graduated Asheville High. I'm a community advocate, a community activist, and I'm a very disappointed black man in Asheville. 70 years ago, in 1954, America made one of its gravest mistakes ever, integrating the schools. Why? People felt it was the coming of Jesus Christ, when in reality it set black students up for failure. Our education was basically taken out of the hands of black educators and more or less placed in the hands of people that thought we were inferior, people that they cared nothing for teaching. Our failure with this educational system began as soon as these folks found we weren't so inferior after all. How could this be? How can these Negroes be so smart? Hatred proceeded with sabotage. They lost their minds when they discovered how inferior they are to black athletes. It became impossible for whites to crack the starting lineup. So for 70 years, the path has been traveled to sabotage or not teach our black children on the level of white students. 70 years later, we sit here with y'all in the place of the people that sit in the place of those that tried to keep the black students down. Now y'all sit in the position not caring about them. Back to my thing, so I freestyle. Our school board wants to join this Mike Sudi person in the further invading of communities with their white desires. Put your bike lanes in your neighborhood. Residents of Asheville, it's past time to start making an example of our city council members, our school board commissioners, whatever. Enough is enough. Y'all have taken us for granted. Okay. So we are one of the only 2 places in the state where commissioners for school boards and stuff are selected by people on the city council, who many are friends of people that they put on the school board. So hopefully within the next year or so we'll be able to elect people that care about the students of the school as much as the teachers care about the students of the school and the community care about the students of the school. If y'all come through here putting this bike lane over in our neighborhood, it's not gonna be pretty. And for Mike Sudi, black people do not want their bike lane in their community. And if you want to do me like you did Charlotte Mayfield, I'm right here. Thank you.
Thank you. Jonathan Wainscott. And Jonathan, you have 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
Yes.
I'm familiar with this. My name is Jonathan Wainscott, and I came out to talk about the Bacote Woods Asheville Unpaved easement through the Asheville Middle School's property. And there's a lot of things that concern me about that. One is that this meeting that we're having right now is taking place in a neighborhood that was subjected to one of the biggest efforts of urban renewal in the country, along with South French Broad neighborhood. And so this white encroachment that is being talked about is very real and continues to this day. And I know that mountain biking isn't an exclusively white activity, but neither is hockey. This just doesn't seem like something's welcomed by the community. Another problem that I see for the Asheville City School System is this is your property. And Mike Sewell of Asheville on Bikes outlined a lot of different activities that this unpaved path would be used for, not just biking, bird watching and hiking and biking and riding a three-wheeled bicycle and all that kind of stuff. That's a daytime activities agenda. And then we have the nighttime activities agenda, which would include, of course, trespassing, intravenous drug using, overdosing, sex trafficking, assault, rape, murdering, any of those types of things, which are going to happen when we make these woods more accessible to just anybody. So just having anybody coming onto the school property is going to be problematic. And when those things start happening, depending on how tragic the situation might be, you're going to be looking at an attractive nuisance situation. It's going to put you liable for horrible things that happen on your property when you should have known better. So this is just a misstep in many directions, and I would hope that some of my white folks would slow their roll a little bit. We're on the hook for colonization, slavery, Jim Crow, raisins in the potato salad. And so, let's just keep all of that in mind and listen to the community when the community says that we don't want something, and not drag another black person who happens to be of outdoor, color my outdoors. Simone Adams was mentioned. Hey, I found this black person who actually likes the outdoors, and she doesn't live in Asheville. She doesn't live in South French Broad neighborhood. She doesn't live in Asheville or Buncombe County. So this is the community concern. It seems very much like they don't want it. It seems like something that you shouldn't take on. And, I just came up to put in my little 2 cents there. So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you. Next, we have Mike Sewell. And Mike, you've written that you're representing Asheville on Bikes, and so you'll have 5 minutes.
Yes, my name is Mike Sewell. I'm the executive director of Asheville on Bikes, and I'm here tonight to apologize. Last week during the work session, when I presented on the Asheville Unpaved Coat Branch Trails, my tone was strident, and I also ignored the Charles Street community's concerns regarding neighborhood resiliency and gentrification. I personally apologize to Ms. Charlene Mayfield for challenging her directly during the meeting. I acknowledge my disrespect. I appreciate and thank the community leaders who held me to account and helped me see that my exertion of privilege and its potential to perpetuate harm in legacy neighborhoods. Thank you. I am humbled and I am sorry. I apologize.
And Kimberly, you have 3 minutes.
Hello, my name is Kimberly Collins. I am a proud alumni of Asheville High School class of 1988. My son also graduated from Asheville High School class of 2017. I am also a community advocate and activist. Just consider me the Fannie Lou Hammer of Asheville. I want to start out by just reading little snippets of the irony, okay? One starts with your equity statement. In Asheville City Schools, we are committed to equity and anti-racist policies. Go down to the very bottom. During this meeting, we invite a pause if harm has taken place, a moment to name the harm, and space to practice repair. Then we go on to cite and pledge the allegiance, right? One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Those two put together are just quite laughable coming from you all because you continue to perpetuate harm on our community. First to you, Mike, Mr. Asheville on Bikes, you're as heartfelt as you thought your apology was. We know why it came. It came because you were told how your white privilege, your white supremacy rang throughout that last meeting. The unmitigated gall of anyone to tell a black person what's best for them when they themselves are not black is laughable. Now you're pausing this and you're saying you're going to do this without having to go through the city. Well, guess what? You're only prolonging the harm. And don't think we're going to forget. We're not. Because if you try to slide this in through the back door, guess what? We're going to be right here again. And your fear of the blackness will be felt and it will be tangible. I can guarantee you. Now, my second point of harm that I would like to point out is the fact that we have educators within our school system that are constantly being looked over because of white supremacy and white privilege. You're allowing teachers to fail up and be placed in positions of leadership within the home office who are going to make decisions for our black and brown children. We have to stop it. You have a lot of educators sitting here in this room who are more than capable of doing jobs that you are continuing to place white people in. The fact that you don't do a robust job at trying to recruit and retain black teachers is another issue. Who's your search team? I guarantee you they don't look like me. And I guarantee you, if you send white people to these HBCUs to try to bring them to this school system with the housing being just ridiculous and nobody being able to afford to live here, and then they're looking at this white person who can afford to live here, you're not going to attract them. They're not going to come. People gravitate towards people that look like them. So I admonish you all to look deep within yourselves and in your white privilege and try to find the equity that you so eloquently cite at every meeting. Because not to do so means that you intentionally seek to continue the harm. Thank you.
Next, we have Charlene Mayfield.
As y'all know, my name is Charlene Mayfield. I hadn't planned on speaking this evening, but having spoken to you many times in the past, and you know our position, my family has lived on Charles Street since 1949. My parents, myself, my 5 siblings, my children, our grandchildren, that's 4 generations. There's 3 standing here now. We've lived in this area and have all attended Asheville City Schools, and we're tax-paying citizens. But after I left the meeting last week. I haven't really been able to sleep. That night, I woke up feeling so disappointed after Mike Shue spoke to me the way he did, and none of y'all, I mean none of y'all, said anything. When I asked the rebuttal, oh, send me an email. My family has managed to survive Jim Crow, urban renewal, and when I stand before you today, we are concerned about gentrification and displacement. The response I've already received is, well, it's already happened. This process is causing not only my family harm, but the Black community in Asheville as a whole, because we live in a city and a school system that purport to support racial equity and racial justice, and time again, the wishes of the Black community is set aside in favor for more powerful interest groups. I have an idea where this is gonna go next week, or if y'all put it off again or whatever, but please, please just prove me wrong. God bless you.
Thank you. That concludes in-person comment. Do we have anyone virtual? Okay. Normally, with in-person comment, we don't, as a board, respond. I do want to acknowledge some things that have been brought up during public comment. And I think that, first of all, just thank you to the community for showing up tonight and saying what you said. I remember when we first, as a board, were debating our equity statement. And I remember board member Liza Kelly raising the concern that if we said this at every board meeting, would it become, would it just become something that just kind of fell into the cracks? Like it would just become so rote that we wouldn't necessarily pay attention to it. And so, Ms. Mayfield, especially to you, you're right. As board chair, I had the responsibility last week to stop that harm, and I did not. And I had the time, and I should have lived into that equity statement, and I did not. And so, on behalf of the board, I apologize that that was not done during that meeting. And I apologize that you and so many others had to come and take time tonight to come and say that to us in person. It should not have happened. We should have invited pause. We should have called it out as it happened. And we should have named that harm. And that's not the only time it's happened. And so I'm inviting us as a board tonight to reinvest in that commitment that we make every time that we say that equity statement, that we live into that equity statement, that we recognize when harm is, that harm is happening. There was a staff member who actually texted me during that moment and said, I think harm is happening. Some of you know that I choose not to look at my phone during meetings because I know that not everybody has my number. And I think it's inappropriate, actually, that some people have it and some people don't. And I feel like if not everybody does, I don't know if I should be looking at my phone, but I'm actually going to change that. Like if somebody has the wherewithal to say, hey, there's some harm happening, and can text me and I can look at it, because I might not be aware of it, I want to be able to look at my phone. So I want to acknowledge that, Ms. Mayfield, that we should have been living into that equity statement as a board. last Monday.